Hello, how are you? I'd love to hear from you right now about your opinion over the stigma of being overweight. I don't know if you've heard the latest thoughts about how overweight people should pay extra for their airline seats, or that fat should be considered a self-inflicted injury when it comes to getting medical treatment. And that, of course, would only push up the medical insurance, and of course it makes the uphill struggle even worse. It makes me feel that fighting the flab is a hard enough mountain to climb without having to endure the sniping and barefaced ignorance of others who seem to think, despite what they allege, that it's laziness that leads to overweight. I was talking to an obesity expert from Melbourne, Australia this week, who says that by the time his patients get to see him, they're already quite damaged by the attitudes of the people around them. He says he wants to change people's attitudes, or we're never going to solve our own or society's problems when it comes to weight management. He says that within the medical profession, even he suffers from a sort of stigma. He says it has to become cool to help obese people, and at the moment, he says, it's not. He says other doctors even make fun of his work, saying, how hard can it be to tell people to eat less and exercise more? Not only is there a prejudice amongst health professionals, but there's a huge problem with ordinary people. They did a study in America and found that not only was there generally a lower opinion of the overweight, but that just standing next to a large person can be bad for your image. They asked a group of employers to interview men and women for a job. The candidates were asked to turn up for interview with a companion. Now that companion had to be either slim or very obese. The companions did nothing, they just sat alongside their partner while he or she was interviewed. Those candidates with big, as in obese, partners did much worse than the candidates with thin companions. It's unbelievable, isn't it? They reckon that the prejudice against fat is so strong that it even affects the slim half of a partnership or a marriage. So what can be done to change this prejudice? What would you do? And what can be done to save another generation from becoming obese and having to suffer that way? Just to give you a clue as to the latest thinking, apparently they're doing a lot of research into the fat gene. They reckon that many of us are genetically predisposed to putting on weight in today's modern environment. This particular expert I was talking to said it was called the thrift gene. He told me that in caveman days, those with the gene would have been more able to store up fats and water and be able to survive the lean times. Nowadays, however, we live in a land of plenty, or too much, and of processed food designed to deliver more fat than nutrients. And our thrift gene makes us put on fat and defies almost all measures to lose weight. You know what I mean, don't you? Where you eat a lettuce leaf for nothing but a lettuce leaf for weeks on end, and you don't lose any weight. Well, the thrift gene helps explain that, but it doesn't help solve the problem if you're already suffering from overweight or obesity. Who is to blame, if not ourselves, though? Many feel the blame lies squarely with the food manufacturers, who have loaded their products with fat and sugar to make them as tasty as possible, swelling millions of bellies and their own coffers at a stroke. Should they be forced to change their products? What about reducing portion sizes? Apparently the average portion of just about anything has increased by 30% over the last 10 years. On the other hand, if biscuits suddenly got smaller, wouldn't we just all go out and buy twice as many? What about the advertising of junk food? How is the healthy message meant to supersede the junk message? What would happen to the health of the nation if as much money were used to promote apples and grapes and home cooking as is spent annually by McDonald's or Burger King to promote their products? Doctors are also thinking about their professional attitude towards us. They're figuring out that the sanctimonious approach isn't working. For men in particular, simply preaching at them is very, very bad, said this professor. There is no point in simply saying you must cut down on calories and fat. A little bit of digging may uncover underlying reasons why people find it so hard to lose weight, and which may help the doctor to offer a structured approach that is relevant to your circumstances and which may actually work. Another leading British doctor says obesity is always treated as if people have a lack of willpower. But we live in a society where there is a high-fat, high-sugar diet and low physical activity. He said 65% of the US population was obese or overweight, and in the UK, around 22% of adults are obese, and the same proportion, again, are overweight, and you can only sense that things are going to get worse. It's an epidemic, he says, where everyone is being affected. We have to make it easy for people to make the right choices. So tell me, what's your doctor like? Helpful? Sympathetic? Or did he just give you a diet sheet and tell you to go away and get on with it yourself? I'm off to a conference in San Francisco this week to learn more of what the obesity experts are working on, and I'll report back for you in a few days. In the meantime, do enjoy yourself on the website and keep me posted with your thoughts, opinions and experiences. I always love to hear from you.